Hey guys, it's Al here again. I'm at the office of one of the architects that I work with on a regular basis, and I'm here to show you around and answer some of the questions that I get asked regularly about the business. One of the questions that I get asked on a regular basis is what actually goes on at the architect's office and how clients find the architects. Now, most clients find the architect through recommendations. Now, the recommendation can be done through somebody that's already worked with the architect and is happy with the project and the end result. Or the recommendation can be based on the architects doing similar kind of designs to what the client is actually interested in creating. And that alignment brings the architect and the client together and the process gets started. At the first project meeting between the architect and the client, the first thing is the energy level between the two parties and if they feel like they can work together long term. The client usually turns up with some idea of what they want designed in their house, and it's the architect's job to create that dream and turn it into a reality within the parameters of what's allowed. For example, the client may show up and want a particular design done. The architect's job then is to figure out the client's budget, figure out what can be built on that site, figure out the setbacks, the height limitations, the square footage that could be built on that site, and once they have a general guideline, the design process starts. So at the initial design meetings between the architect and the client, the things that get discussed are the exterior look of the building, the interior look, the space within the interior and the exterior, and how the flow of the entire building comes together. How many bedrooms, the living room, the kitchen, where each one is positioned. And it's the architect's job really at this point to start explaining to the client the positivity and negativity of his initial ideas and align the process and their thoughts to create the final design. That doesn't have to be the final at the initial meeting, but over a number of different meetings and different schematic drawings, you end up with a design that the client is happy with. At this point, you should have a basic drawing set, which should consist of your site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and often sections. Now, the drawing set should consist of anywhere between 50 and 100 pages, and it depends on how deeply the architect wants to dive into the individual details of the project. Now, the more details the architect creates, and the more documents you have, the easier it is to construct the final product. However, there has to be some kind of balance because you don't want to end up with so much documentation that it just becomes tedious and extremely expensive. At this point, you should have your drawing set and the opening page, which should show you a very nice rendering of what your project looks like. Usually it's done showing the front elevation of the project, and then you move on to show the project information. In this particular case, the project summary is the demo of a one-story SFD, which stands for single family dwelling, and in its place a new single family dwelling with attached garage is going to be put there. The project address, lot size, and you move on with additional information. There's zoning, which is very important, and it's something that the architect would have discussed with the client at the beginning, and we can go into it further later on. On the front page, you also show the vicinity map, which is sometimes referred to as a site map, showing the house with the surrounding building, or I should say the lot that the house is going to be on with the surrounding buildings. Depending which state you're in, we're in Los Angeles, you have to follow the code. So For us, we would have to follow building code, structural code, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and energy code. Energy code having title 24, that's extremely important and it's constantly getting updated. We then come down to the project directory, the owner, the architect, structural engineer, civil engineer, irrigation, landscape, and depending on the complexity of the project, you may have some other professionals that would need to be involved in. At the very bottom of the page, you have the abbreviations and the symbols, and these give you the details of what the symbols mean as you move on and flick through the different pages. On the far right hand side, the sheet list, which gives you what the individual pages are and where you will find them. So here you would see A4 would be the section, pool coverage A10, and you would then flick through the individual pages looking on the bottom right hand side to locate what you're looking for. So as explained earlier, in its very, very basic form, an architectural set would need to consist of a site location map, plans, and of course elevations. However, it gets a lot more complex than that, and I'll give you an example by coming onto the sheet list. As we move down, we have what's known as window details and a window schedule. So if we go to 0.9, this will show you what every type of window that's within the house is, the width, the height, type, manufacturer, model, and every detail regarding the windows, showing you every type of window within the property. So of course, in an office like this, you have so many screens and so many chairs, and you must be wondering what each person is responsible for. Now, in every office, of course, this is different, but in this particular office, the person sitting there is responsible for interior design of the project. As you move further down to the right-hand side, the person here works closely with the architect through the design process and working with the city in the expediting process in order to be able to get the permits. As you move further to the right-hand side, you have the person that works on the details of the project. These are the fine drawings that go into a lot of detail of what each junction and each section within this particular project looks like. And further to the right-hand side, you have the person that deals with the 3D and the rendering of the projects. What's being used currently at this particular office is Revit. AutoCAD is also an extremely popular package that's being used, and if you want to start getting into real 3D stuff that's extremely expensive and very high end, you have packages like 3D Studio Max, Rhino, and the list goes on and on. One of the questions I get asked constantly is timelines and how long things take, whether that be the architectural or the construction process. And it's a difficult question to answer, and the reason is there are so many variables within this process and so many people involved. But let's take a good case scenario where the architect and the client have got the general idea in terms of the design, and the design process moves forward quickly. The plans and the architectural set are drawn and submitted, and the city moves at a relatively reasonable pace. You're really looking around at least 6 to 9 months to be able to be at a point where the city is ready to give you plans that are RTI. RTI stands for ready to issue, and at that point you can take those plans and start the construction process. At that point, generally most sites would have a house or some kind of structure on there, and you would need a demo permit to tear the house down and start the construction process. Again, that construction process can vary in time hugely depending on what you're doing. But in the case we were discussing today, the house is approximately 3,500 square feet. The construction process is not too complicated. So ideally you're looking around 12 to 15 months for the construction process to be completed. And that's if everything goes smoothly and there's no problems along the way, whether that's with the city, subcontractors, or any issues that come up that were not foreseen while the construction process is going on. Now that timeline dramatically changes as the construction design becomes more complex, and when you have sites such as Hillside that are more complicated, and hillside projects, it's not inconceivable for those hillside projects to take 3 to 4 years from the point they break ground till they're completed. And as we're coming to the end of this video, I would like to thank you for coming along this property development journey with me. Please do subscribe and fire as many questions as you want in terms of the content that you'd like to see, the people you'd like me to connect with, and I would be happy to try and put that together for you. And if you are a real estate or development professional that would like to do some videos with us, please also feel free to contact me.